welcome to our second taping of the MSP Sales Podcast. Today, like you'll be seeing in for all these, I've got Rob Rogers and Allison Trisco. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, Tim. How are you doing?
My leg's a mess and it's starting to seize up on me.
Good,
So
good. A
that's
little
fun.
too much information there, buddy, but
Yeah,
I was
it's
just looking
fun.
for a good.
Yeah, no, not right now. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Fair.
So today, one of the we in our first podcast we talked about deal registration. Today we wanted to talk about the ever changing landscape of what should your first sales hire be. There's a lot of opinions out there. And Rob and I's opinion, admittedly, has changed over the years. We used to think getting a hunter was the best way to go. We've kind of gravitated towards making sure that you have an account manager on staff first to square away your current client deck, get as much revenue out of them as you can so that you can justify having that salary of a hunter. But there's a lot of different things in between as well. And that's part of what we wanted to go over today. Allison and Rob, I know this is something that we talked about a little bit before we jumped on here. I think Trisco, you've got a couple of opinions that I thought were probably good to start out with, and then we can kind of go back and forth from there.
Yeah. So what I was saying earlier was just that it really depends, to your point, on the landscape of the client. If we're working with someone that they've got a technical account management staff, they might have a client success team already. That first hire may look a little bit different. If there's no one in place, it may be a lead generation person. If there's account management in place, maybe move into a BDR role. It depends on the MSP.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've worked with a lot of MSPs over the years, right? And to include who is now our business coach, Sean Walsh, is a former client of ours, and his philosophy was always don't even really worry about the hunters as much. Just get those account managers in to get as much revenue out of your current client deck as possible, and grow through referrals. I guess, Rob, what are your opinions on all this?
Yeah. So, I look at it like this. You first protect the revenue that you have. And how do you protect the revenue that you have? You prevent churn. And you prevent churn by having account managers that are forward-facing, relationship-building people that also cross-sell and upsell. So protect your revenue is number one thing. Number two is find the low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit is your current client deck. They're the easiest people to call, get past that, prospecting wall, and, start doing, cross-sell and upsells. And you know what their stack is. You know if they're missing VoIP with you. You know if they don't have their backup with you or whatever it is out there. So you know how to analyze all that stuff and get there and have conversations with those people. So protecting your revenue and growing quickly through low-hanging fruit is the account manager's job. I prefer to do it with a sales-focused account manager, but I know a lot of people do it with technical-based account managers.
Yeah.
It depends on your philosophy and how you have your company set up, right? You can't just all of a sudden just switch everything up and fire a bunch of technical account managers and hire a bunch of sales account managers and think you're doing great. So that's how I come at it. The new logos is the most expensive way to grow your business, but you do that after your account management, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I know I started out the recording just talking about how our philosophy has changed over the years. Rob and I, for a long time, our opinion was you start out with that lead gen person first, and then you start out with that lead generator, setting up appointments for the principal, and then eventually you either grow that sales rep into a full cycle sales rep, meaning that person can not only get the first time appointments, but take them to close, right? I think one thing that we have seen over the years that I would like to get both of your opinions on is your thoughts on having that hybrid role of can you do account management can you be a farmer and a hunter at the same time?
Trisco,
Yeah.
I'll push it off to you first.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. You got to find the right person for that seat. When we're talking about where some of these different roles fit, right? And that first question when you're working with an MSP really is, have you done, Rob, a white space analysis? Have you looked at your current? Well, there we go.
Hold on, drink on white space analysis.
Yeah. Have you looked at your current client deck? Do you know things like, is there already upsell opportunity that could potentially be sitting there? Have you right-sized your clients before? Do you do increases, and when's the last time that you did? Like, all of that money could just potentially be sitting there. That alone could help you pull together what you need to drop into that next level role, right? Where's the ROI in this? And with the account managers, to that point, if you have a body in that chair that's doing that stuff, it's not a longer sales cycle, which you're going to get with a BDR, right? We're not saying don't hire BDRs. We're saying what's going to make sense to help you financially out of the gate, right? And we always preached in the past, lead gen, then BDR, but the landscape has changed.
Very much so.
So from my side, hybrid doesn't work unless you find the absolute perfect unicorn. And that is a very hard hire. And there's two reasons. One, it's so much easier to do account management. And I don't mean the job function is easier. You just have less no's coming your way.
Yeah.
You make 100 calls on outbound prospecting, you're getting 95 people hanging up on you.
Yeah.
You call 100 of your clients, you're having 95 people say hi to you. So where do you want to spend your day? So it's really easy for a person to not do the new logos and only focus on the account management if they are a hybrid person. Now, if they have a very strong marketing function working with them, and then all they have to do is just go and kind of talk to leads and appointments that have already happened, if they've already been booked, that's different. But asking somebody to pick up the phone and call 100 strangers or call 100 of your clients, like who wouldn't call their clients first?
Yeah. And I think that's the tug of war that we've always had with reps that we've managed in the past that are doing both sides of it, at least in my opinion, right? Like, as somebody who used to make those cold calls, I can tell you right now, if you give me the option of calling a current client versus making a cold call, 1,000 times out of 1,000, I'm going to call a client. Yeah. So as an MSP owner, you need to understand that if you don't have any support behind you, meaning like you don't have a sales manager or just the experience in this area, it's generally not going to work if you try and find that person who is both an account manager and an appointment setter or an account executive out of the gate. It really should be one or the other. And the other thing I would say is we historically have not found account managers transition. We have not historically found the hunter or the farmers transition to the hunting side, although we have seen hunters transition to the farming side. They're two very different worlds. And if you're not a born hunter, man, it's pretty hard to make that person a hunter.
So one of the things that, we get asked, several times, Tim, is, I have a farmer, I have an account manager who hears about all the greatness of the hunters and how much fun they have and going out and knocking on doors and the freedom and all this kind of stuff. And he really wants, or she really wants to go be a hunter, but they've never done it before. What would you say to the owner? Like, how would you guide the owner through this process? And I ask both of you here.
Do you want to start, Allison?
How do you guide them through the process on that transition?
Yeah. So like, do you tell your account manager, go pound sand? I'm not going to let you be a hunter.
No.
Or do you give them the opportunity to test the waters out a little bit? Do you just throw them into the deep end and say good luck? Like what do you do to like kind of navigate that transition for somebody who really wants to try it out?
You don't just throw them into the deep end, but you certainly navigate it and you tether them to somebody and see if it's going to work. They don't know until they're out there, right? And you've got to see, I mean, to Tim's point, you going into account management it's a lot different than going out and doing, you know, a door knock or new logo business from the discovery point when nobody knows you. Or so yeah, I wouldn't say throw them into the deep end, but I would let them, I wouldn't tell them no. Certainly let them explore. You may find out that in some cases that hybrid position may work. What we have seen is that typically it does not.
It's a hard hire. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And I would, although I understand you can't just throw somebody in the deep end, there is something to be said of, all right, think you can do this? Go make 80 calls a day.
Yeah, put them in that seat. Right.
Have them tested for, adjust their schedule. I mean, look, there's got to be a plan, right? And that's where I say it's not just throw them in the deep end. There's got to be a systematic way in which you go about it. But
yeah,
it can be something as simple as, hey, if you want to give this a go, we're going to, let's say on a week, you condense all of the account management appointments into, say, 2.5 days or 2 days in a week. That's aggressive, but whatever, argument's sake. The rest of that week, they're responsible for making no less than 12 to 15 calls per hour during a working day. A salesperson has I'm talking generally speaking, there are 6.5 working hours in a day for a salesperson or anybody else, right? Breaks, lunch, etc. During those 6.5 hours, they need to be averaging no less than 12 calls a day. And it should be in that 12 to 20 range. So let them experience it. And they're going to find out real quick that the phone is either, phone, not that most people aren't physically picking up phones necessarily anymore, but dialing out or picking up that phone it's either going to weigh 200 pounds every time you pick that up, or it's not. And for the ones that it doesn't weigh 200 pounds, then maybe you do have something.
Yeah.
But be ready for that phone to weigh 200 pounds and the salesperson cannot pick it up.
Yeah. The reason I bring this up is because I just went through this with, one of my clients, and the way we did it was we did it just like that. So we said, okay, here's the plan that we're going to build for you. You're going to spend 5 days doing cold calling. We have the list, here's your territory. You can make your calls. And then we're going to give you two options at the end of this. If you want, after the end of that 5 days, you can go back to your regular job, or you can go and make 1 full day of cold calling. And then the other 4 are the account manager position to make sure that you're paying for your seat. And then we'll move it up to 2 days. Then we'll move it up to 3 days, and we'll slowly transition you into that hunter role that you want, that you really believe that you can do. I have never seen it work. I've never seen it work. At the end of 5 days, they're like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
What the hell am I doing?
Yeah. Back to account management I go.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Look, I mean, you don't go into a sales role if you are not coin, and it shouldn't even say coin operated. We don't even use coins anymore, but we used to always say that, right? You go into sales because you're coin operated. Yeah, you're a team player. Yeah, everything is for the good of the company. But at the end of the day, you're looking to make commission.
Yeah.
And if your quicker way to your end goal is on the account management side, why wouldn't you want to be there? Right? Now, the new logo stuff, there are people that's the role that they want. And they're pure hunters. And that's great. But having it both ways, you're going to lead toward where the money's quicker.
Yeah. I mean, and there's personality involved. Like a farmer's personality is completely different than a hunter's personality. And trying to change your role and change who you are is hard, right? It requires a lot of discipline and doing things that are very uncomfortable for you, and being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's hard for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, to that point, I would say we use DISC profiles here, both internally and the clients that we work with. And in either scenario, a salesperson, in theory, and DISC profiles or any other personality profiles, it's a part of the decision. It's never the full decision. So that's important to note out of the gate. But generally speaking, if you're hiring for a sales role, you want both your farmers and hunters to be high on the influence side. So high. I mean that again, general. On the hunting side, usually we find better results with somebody who is also a high D or a high driver. So high D, high I on the hunting side. A lot of times the account managers are high I's, high S's. They're a little more process oriented and they're a little more systematic with how they go about things. They don't tend to squirrel off quite as much. They will stick to a process a little bit better. Whereas the high driver, they tend to squirrel off, kind of like Rob and I all the time. And there's a difference. There's a big difference between the two. So when you're doing your personality profiles, which whether it's DISC or anything else, they all kind of come back with the same results. You've got to find somebody who in the account management seat is really good at being a little more process oriented. In the hunting seat, if they're process oriented, that's great, but don't expect that to be the norm. That's all.
Allison, I thought you were going to say, no, you two don't squirrel off. But you just went on mute and laughed.
Yeah.
For anybody who's watching the video, that wasn't very nice, Allison. We saw what you did. We all saw it.
Yeah. Good.
But yeah, okay. That's what I was just gonna say. It's like square peg round hole. You can't take one necessarily and fit them. They are who they are, right? Their salespeople are wired the way they're wired.
All right, I got another question for you, Timmy. How many accounts can an account manager handle out there? Yeah. Like when you see when you see that, like what's the norm that you're seeing?
That goes back to kind of where we started out, where it depends on what you're looking to do, right? So I would say there's 3 different acronyms that people use, either AMs, VCIOs, or client success manager, CSM, right? So if you're looking at more the traditional CSM or client success manager, there's a pretty strong argument they can really only handle 8, 10, 12, top end 15, because we're talking white glove treatment. Like it is the top of the top when it comes to how you're dealing with these clients. If you're looking at a VCIO, I mean, that's where the lines get blurred a little bit, in my opinion. There are a lot of people who really are account managers who are dealing with 35, 40, top end 50 accounts. That's super aggressive. I'd say 35 to 40 for an account manager is the right number. Where the lines get blurred is I think people often use the term client success manager or VCIO when if you really look at what they're doing, it's really account management. So it's in the eye of the beholder. That's a lot of words to say. It's in the eye of the beholder. Traditional account manager, I'd say 35 to 40 accounts. Client success manager, lower, 8 to 12, 15 tops. And I would say VCIOs are probably somewhere in the middle of that, from what we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you all think?
I think those numbers are in line. The only time those numbers go out of line, I think, from what you just carved out, is when you've got that person who, again, we're talking hybrid roles, where we've onboarded a client and they've said, oh, I have an account manager, and they're really not. They might have a handful of accounts. Mm-hmm. They're also doing some new logo. They also could be pulling cable and helping their tech staff, and they're not really excelling in any one area. That's when that's going to be out of whack. But those are the exceptions.
Yeah. So my add to this would be, if you have an account manager who's handling 70 accounts or handling your entire client deck, they're not an account manager. They're an order taker. They're only doing reactive things based on people calling in and them just filling out the orders for you. They are not upselling, cross-selling for you. Yeah. And like the most I've ever seen, Timmy, on, like an account manager, like your top account managers that are very proactive, is 50. And that was best in class that I've ever seen. Yeah, I agree with you. That was
crazy though. That was beyond top 1%.
He was really, really good. Yeah. And he had been there in the seat for a long time. So, it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you just need an order taker, you can go up to 75. But if you're looking to grow your stack, and you're cross-selling and upselling and looking at your white space analysis and trying to grow that, then the best you can do is 30 to 40, because all the QBRs that they have to do, all the tier grading that they have to do for the ABC tiers, like there's a lot of work inside of that to be proactive and grow.
Well, but I also think it's almost a fourth seat in a way, right? You said order taker, and I'm not saying it's got a negative connotation in general, I'd say, but it's also not if you've got 50, 60, 80 clients, having that person start off as an order taker to lessen the blow of the tech team or the tech staff, the engineers, it's not a terrible place to be either.
I agree, completely agree. I didn't mean to make the word to sound like a negative word.
No, I know.
I guess maybe I did a little bit to make the point, but that's what we did. It's a lower paying wage. You don't have your technical team writing out basic scopes, and you've given it to somebody who's going to grow into somebody who is a proactive account manager.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's a conversation I'm having with an MSP in Massachusetts right now. Like he's got a client decabating, and he's trying to figure out what his first hire is going to be. And my initial reaction was, well, you need to have 2 account managers to fulfill that. I didn't really go down the road of, hey, maybe we do get more of an order taker and grow them into an account manager, and then get them profitable, and then it makes sense get that second account manager.
Yeah.
And then we go to lead gen, and then we go to more of that BDR or that closer. And just to be clear for everybody out there, everything I just said, that's a 2 years up to 3 to 4 year journey. This is not something that happens overnight. So as you're trying to find those first salespeople, you need to be patient. You need to give them a structure that will create consistency. And you also need to know that it's going to take time. I mean, just from a longevity standpoint. And I know that's where the patience comes in, but it's just really important to note that.
Yeah. All right. Well, Allison, Tim, we're coming up to the end of our time here. Any closing thoughts from you two before we kind of shut it down?
Yeah, I just want to say, you said white space analysis so many times that I'm going to talk shock and awe on Ideal 250 next time.
Okay. Well done.
All right.
I tip my hat to you. Well done. You got it in there.
It's time to go.
Okay. Listen, for anyone who's still listening, I'd like to sum up everything that we've talked about. If you're going to go out there and hire an account manager, number one, it's an easier hire with less flame out and with less bad hire potential on the account manager. And you want to focus when you're hiring them to focus on hiring the smile and then training the skill. And I don't mean hire a beautiful person. I mean somebody who naturally likes to smile, and you can feel that smile coming through the phone. If you can feel that smile coming through the phone, so can your clients. So, that's number one. Number two, try not to get them into that hybrid role. It's really cool over there on the other side of the pond, but it usually doesn't work out for that account manager. And then, the last thing is just make sure you do your white space analysis so they know what to go after, when to go after it, and how to make the most money for you as you're moving forward. Guys, we will have this episode up on LinkedIn and Spotify and everywhere that you can get your podcast, to include our website, osrmanage.com. We look forward to chatting with you next time.